I'm Mark.
And I'm Josh.
And this is Alter Ego Comics TV. We had to take a week off last week because there were so many comics that came out. It took me a week to read all. It took you a while to
It
get
totally
through
did.
all.
And they were thick ones.
So we will start this week by recapping some of the high points from last week. I'll kick things off with Detective Comics 876. Shouldn't be a surprise by now. Scott Snyder's run on Detective Comics is legendary. It will go down in history probably as one of the best runs on Detective Comics, at least in my mind and in other people's minds. Still not too late to jump on board with this. The artwork, this is the beginning of a new storyline actually. Jock is back doing the artwork, and it's so good, really. Those of you with phobias about Dick Grayson as Batman, get over it and read this book because it's so good.
All right, we got a one-shot. Tomb of Dracula presents Throne of Blood. This is actually a really surprisingly good one-shot. I've been a little bit unimpressed with the vampire stuff going on lately in the Marvel Universe, but I really enjoyed this book. Basically, Dracula's barely in it. Dracula's essentially telling the story in the modern day of a adventure that happened in feudal Japan involving other vampires and some Japanese samurai and whatnot. And it's a fun, classic vampire story. It's got wonderful samurai elements, and it's the example of things that should be in one-shot form, and is actually done well and worth your money.
Planet of the Apes returns in comic form courtesy of Boom Studios last week. We only have a handful of copies of this left, and it was really good. It takes place about 1,300 years before Taylor lands on the Planet of the Apes, and with the new Apes movie coming out this fall, this has sold very well. The first printing is sold out at the distributor and the publisher level. There will be a second printing, but we do still have a handful of copies of the first printing. Check it out.
FF number 2 also came out last week. This continues from the strong start we got in FF1, and we see an evolution of exactly what the Future Foundation and the First Family of the Marvel Comics is going to mean in this new timeline, and it's just great stuff. It's a lot of fun. It's interesting that we're actually seeing the First Family as a family again. We're seeing, the kids having actual personalities and not being plot devices, and it's continuing the strong run by Jonathan Hickman, and definitely worth a look.
Venom number 2, Rick Remender, Tony Moore. This book is awesome. There are no two ways about it. We still have copies of number 1, actually the second printing of number 1 in, plenty of copies of number 2, and in this issue, Flash Thompson, aka Venom, takes on Kraven the Hunter, and it's just outstanding. If I had to pick the week last week, it would be this book. This was the pick of the week last week. So Venom rocks.
Mighty Thor number 1. Wrapping up the stuff from last week, we've got Matt Fraction of Invincible Iron Man, who is awesome, writing a new Thor book. It's really, really good. I know you've heard us tell you over and over again that Matt Fraction is awesome, but it is.
We love you, Matt Fraction.
We love you, Matt Fraction. Please remove this restraining order. But no, you've got Thor teaming up with the Silver Surfer. You've got some Galactus in here. You've got a good run picking up, and it's just
great artwork. Copiel's back, who was doing the artwork on Straczynski's run of Thor. He did House of M. He did Siege. It's a pretty book.
There are no words. They should have sent a poet. So you should buy Mighty Thor 1.
All right, we're on to this week, and a lot of stuff this week, too. Just some quick things of note. Moon Knight number 1 by Brian Michael Bendis and Alex Maleev. That's right, the team behind most of Daredevil's exploits over the last decade are now taking on Moon Knight. So this is a good jumping on point. Part of Marvel's street-level heroes resurgence. This is the beginning.
Got Deadpool Annual number, let's say, 1. This continues the Identity War story that started in the Spider-Man Annual last month, and will be continued in the Hulk Annual next month. And we continue to see this alternate universe where things are not quite like they are in ours. And you get Wade Wilson. We get to meet the Wade Wilson from this universe, who is really not who you expect. And it's just a great, fun, team-up-y Deadpool, Hulk, Spider-Man story.
Still have copies of the first part in the Spider-Man Annual, so not too late. It's not too late.
It's not too late.
Captain America, the First Avenger, First Vengeance. This is the official prequel to the movie, and it is good stuff. I enjoyed the first issue. The origin of Captain America, from what we see here, has changed a little bit from the comics origin. So I guess to familiarize yourself, if you're already a comic book fan, with what we're going to see in the Captain America movie, or this is a great jumping on point for anyone who is not familiar with Captain America or not extremely familiar, is excited about the movie. This is a good gateway drug for you. You should check it out.
All right, we got Blue Estate. Number 1 and number 2 are both in stock this week because we had a little snafu in getting the first issue in. So we have the reprinting of the first issue and the first printing of the second issue. Blue Estate is a book from Image. It's one of the many creator-owned titles we've been checking out and trying to carry in the store, and it's good. It's fun, sort of a noir mystery Hollywood thing. We've got a Steven Seagal-like action star who's faded past his prime. You've got his alcoholic wife who may or may not actually be an alcoholic, and you've got dealings with the Russian mob and second generation wannabe PI, and if you like some offbeat crime fun stuff, it's a decent read.
Continuing with Image's takeover of the world, we have Gladstone School for World Conquerors #1, and this is a really fun all-ages book. We had Super Dinosaur a couple of weeks ago from Image by Robert Kirkman and Jason Howard, which is another really fun all-ages book. There's enough to keep adults interested in addition to kids, and this is how can you not love a book where you've got a school for world conquerors. One of them is a Martian named Jones. You've got Kid Nefarious. You've got Mummy Girl, and it's all I can say is it's fun. This was almost my pick of the week. It's great.
It really is. I mean, and you've got, even the faculty are fun. I mean, the gardener on the grounds is like your crazy, I mean, basically it's like kids going to school in Arkham Asylum almost. And it's just,
but it's fun.
It's really
but
fun.
More fun than Arkham Asylum.
Nothing's more fun than Arkham Asylum. Next up, also from Image, the first issue of Red Spike. You know what what they don't make so much today is fun 80s action buddy movies, because it's not the 80s anymore. But if you love movies like Tango and Cash, Lethal Weapon, I can name any movie from the 80s and that'd be about right. But Red Spike, we follow a team of government operatives, 2 of whom have been modified so that their adrenal response is significantly stronger, making them stronger, faster. They can be rebuilt. But if you like the 80s buddy fun stuff, it's a good checkout, and it's only $1, so it's certainly worth a look.
$1.
$1.
Lots of action. X-Men Prelude to Schism, #1 of 4 by Paul Jenkins. I was very skeptical about this book when we got it in, and after reading it, I have done a 180. This was a really good read, and it's kind of hard to describe this one because the contents of the book are very good, but there is not a lot of forward momentum. We don't know what we're building towards. You start out and there is some horrendous threat looming over Utopia, where everyone is having to change their diapers because they're so scared, and Scott has to make some major decision, and the whole first issue anyway, is it's more about the relationship between Professor X and Scott, and that stuff that we haven't seen recently. We've seen it a lot in the past, but I really enjoyed it. I don't know where we're going with Schism yet, but if you like that relationship between Scott and Professor X and kind of that father-son dynamic, this is for you.
Just a quick hit. We got Heroes for Hire #6. This is the first issue of the second story arc, so it's a great jumping on point, and it features your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man interacting with our Heroes for Hire. Heroes for Hire has been good from issue 1, Abnett and Lanning, from the Marvel Space books, Annihilation, and so forth, and it's just a great read, so you should totally check it out.
Finally, we've got the triple play of Fear Itself. We've got the core series, Fear Itself #2, Fear Itself Homefront #2, and Fear Itself Spider-Man #1 of 3. Fear Itself #2, we get to see who some of the quote-unquote worthy are, with the hammers falling from the heavens, controlled by the serpent. I don't know what any of that means, but we see who some of these people are, and some are not who you would think they would be, who become the field marshals of the original Allfather, the Serpent, that guy. So this continues. We've got Fear Itself Homefront #2, and this is kind of a good side, as usual, with the companion series to the major mega crossovers. This is really good, and I'm truly enjoying the Speedball story. I'm not a huge Speedball fan, but I think it's done really well. And Mike Mayhew's artwork is awesome. Yeah, it's kind of I don't want to say Alex Rossish, but it is. I mean, it's realistic. And finally, my pick of the week, Fear Itself Spider-Man #1. We get to see kind of how fear is affecting the people in New York City. It's not really explained why they're afraid and how they're afraid. So if you overlook that and you just take this for what it is, and you see 3 or 4 different people who are wrestling with their fears, including Spider-Man, and it's got kind of a classic feel to it. I mean, Peter is afraid and questioning himself. There's a really cool scene which was reminiscent of an old Amazing Spider-Man where Spidey fought the Puma, where he's on a roof and he punches a chimney. And anytime Spider-Man punches a chimney, I think it's cool because you see his frustration and he just blam punches a chimney. We see the return of an old Spider-Man villain that works perfectly with the Fear Itself air that's going on in the Marvel Universe. So, as someone that grew up reading Spider-Man, this was a fun, kind of classic Spider-Man read, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Got a couple quick also rans. We got Herc #2, still from Pack and Manlente, and it continues to be good. You see Herc fighting the Hobgoblin, and honestly, this is probably my favorite Hobgoblin so far since we got the new Hobgoblin. The dialogue in here is great, and he just has the perfect. It's just pitch perfect. And so if you like Herc, if you like people getting hit with swords, if you like street level heroes, that's something for you. Also this week, the Green Lantern Super Spectacular. It's spectacular.
Spectacular.
Spectacular. And it is full of some great Green Lantern stuff. We've got things from Secret Origin. We've got various little shots from between. We've got a wonderful Darwin Cook story, illustrated by Cook, written by Johns. And it also contains my personal favorite, the story from Blackest Night Tales of the Corps, in which we see Kilowog as a new recruit, as a white dot lantern, and you find out who trains the GL's most famous trainer. So if you're a new GL fan, there's a lot of stuff in here that's definitely worth reading. If you're a fan and you don't have some of these, it's certainly worth picking up. So check that out. And my pick of the week is Taskmaster Unthinkable. This is the trade of the 4-issue Taskmaster series that was out earlier this year, late last year. And it is awesome. Again, Fred Van Lente writing. You get to see Taskmaster as maybe not the hero, but as the central character, and you kind of get inside what's going on in Taskmaster's head. And it's there's a little bit of a retconning of some of his stuff, or maybe just a revelation of things we didn't already know. But if you like humorous, fun Marvel characters, it's awesome. We see appearances by some of the most absurd Marvel villains ever, including a band of mariachis, and there's the Trenchcoat Mafia, and the Secret Empire, and really any wacky Marvel villain group probably shows up in here. So if you like a more of a humorous tent, definitely check it out.
And just in case you don't trust Josh, I've heard numerous people rave about Taskmaster. I haven't read it, but I'm going to now that we have the trade in. That's it for this week. Again, we had a ton of stuff last week, lots of cool stuff this week. Always something worthwhile to choose from here at Alter Ego Comics. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week.